development. Welcome to the desk. How you doing?
I'm just super hyped to finally see the rematch of the MSI finals between these two teams. A lot of change. We're seeing a lot of different strategies, but it all comes down to this, region for region.
I don't know what you did with Frost, but we're going on towards what happened with Kingzone and RNG, really shocking the world. This is why RNG was known as the best in the world, coming in on MSI, taking the championship off of Uzi, of course, on the Kaisa, having incredible play time and again, and this was the game-winning play. This brings back memories, and it's going to be resolved today.
Who could possibly forget this one? RNG cementing themselves as the best team fighting team in the world. And remember, Kesman, the last time they met, they said they had a 90% chance to take down Kingzone. But now LCK has had so much time on 8.13 and 8.12. I wonder if that's going to stay the same.
And here's the thing, a lot is on the line for everybody out there, so you know what's actually happening. If Kingzone win this one, they go through on the first seed, just based off that, even if they tie in the standings, just based on the fact that first place gets multiple more points if it comes down to it. Kingzone wins both times. RNG lost the first set versus first game versus Flash Wolves. So, doesn't matter. Kingzone win, they go through. Kingzone lose, LPL gets first place.
And of course, like we said, that MSI match was what not only made RNG the best team in the world, but China the best region in the world coming into this. Now it's the chance for Korea to strike back and try to reclaim that title. Here you can see those stats between these two bottom lanes.
Yep, bottom lane, best one coming in from the LCK, Prey and Gorilla, still rocking the Ezreal, so damage percentage through the roof. Uzi, Ming, of course, iconic dual lane in the LPL.
And these two lanes play very different styles. Prey Gorilla were known for being more passive, holding back, staying in the game, while at MSI it was Ming and Uzi that crushed their lane and gave that early edge to RNG, as we can see on the screen right now.
You can already hear the energy that the crowd is bringing as they get the chance to see this rematch of the MSI finals. Of course, that being said, their opponents on the other side are just as ready to try and bring back that revenge. And again, it's going to be that guy on your screen with the bright yellow hair, Peanut. He just does so much for Kingzone.
Yeah, real shot caller for the team, playmaker here. So coming in for the Kingzone today, all eyes on him. If he plays that jungle, or of course if we see the funneling, because you heard it from Papa, his Rakan is real, I would say, a treat to watch.
Yeah, he is the big engine for Kingzone right here. They play very different. Their DNA is more centered around the roaming hit squad of BDD and Peanut. While on RNG side, they are the big 5v5 team.
And of course, Kingzone, Khan, Peanut, BDD, Prey, and Gorilla looking for revenge against the MSI champions. Zatai, MLXG, Xiaohu, Uzi, and Ming.
And it's gotta feel good for Zatai to be a part of it this time around. Wasn't there for MSI. This time around can really go up against Kingzone. Best teams in the world playing up against each other to decide who goes on to the finals here.
Very interesting also, MLXG starting over Karsa. Karsa was the one that put Peanut in his place, starved him at farm, was 2 levels ahead of him in the majority of the finals game. Now MLXG is a player that is much more unpredictable, so subbing him in is definitely a kind of a big question mark here.
It's real funny. I actually feel like Peanut and MLXG are so close to each other in the mentality, because MLXG will always be in the mindset, tunnel on the jungle. Peanut will be the same. So right now it looks like that's going to be the matchup that's really interesting to watch.
We'll certainly keep our eyes on it. That said, it's time to get us into this final game of the round robin stage of Rift Rivals.
카사 선수랑 마라샹거 선수 MLXG라고 할까요? 네, MLXG 선수 둘 다 뭐 반짝 이번 연도 이렇게 반짝 잘하던 선수들도 아니고 예전부터 꾸준히 좋은 폼 가지고 꾸준히 국제대회에 항상 참가하는 선수들이라 당연히 잘한다고 생각해요. 복수에 그렇게 크게 연연하진 않고요. 저는 항상 스포츠가 이길 수도 있고 당연히 패배도 있는 거니까, 승리도 있고 패배도 있는 거라서 당연히 졌으니까 이겼으면 더 좋을 것 같긴 하네요. 네.
Peanut extremely humble, but we're not. Papatlas has been infiltrated. We've got an insurgent, an LPL insurgent for this, the final day of day number 2. And okay, Frost, welcome to the caster desk. We've now got a tri-cast. And I'm going to have to keep these two away from each other because it all comes down to this.
I don't know. I love me some Papa. We can go back long ways.
Well,
You know,
thanks.
depending on the result, I might agree with you. We'll see how things go.
I'm wearing my lucky blazer. This is what they wore when they won, so we'll see.
Ooh.
Well, this could really get rough. Thankfully, I'm between these two children, and I'll try and do my very best to stop from them beating the heck out of each other. And yes, this is my schmick new jacket. You just be careful. We are into Champion Select, though. The difference here for RNG is MLXG. Kingzone on our blue side this time around, RNG on the red.
And they see a Kai'Sa, they ban a Kai'Sa. First ban on the blue side this time out.
They learned. They're like, no, we're not going to lose to this pick again.
But is this going to be about the past, or is this going to be about the present? Because a lot has changed since Rift Rivals. You think about Rift Rivals time, it really was all about things like, in that moment, you're thinking back to Teleport Ezreal being a new thing, Teleport Carries being a new thing. So much right now is new, and so much is changing as we focus on Kingzone's ban.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a lot changing because Kai'Sa, Vladimir, and Xayah are going to hit the ban list for Kingzone, and RNG taking away the Jace and the Gangplank. Khan getting a lot of the attention here in this draft from RNG.
The focus is for Kingzone for a first pick. Swain was their first pick earlier today. And Swain is going to be
taken away.
First ban on the red side. Okay, when you think of what's available, Taliyah and Taliyah's flex nature is what we see from Kingzone. The God for dual lane in Korea is ironically a combination of Taliyah Shen. That's been the duo that's found so much success. May actually be left open, but the cost, it's pretty high.
It's exactly what happened last time that we saw the Taliyah first pick by the Afrika Freaks. The Zoe just comes in as the immediate answer from RNG, and Rakan is available.
And I'm curious if they're going to prioritize the Rakan or if it's going to be moving towards the Nocturne. Now, naturally, they don't need to grab their jungler here unless they want to hide their hand. But because it's MLXG coming over Kai'Sa, I suspect that that's what they'll try to reach for, just because it's a champion that MLXG played before it was meta.
And a pick in Korea that is so respected. One game on 8-12 of Nocturne, one victory, it went to score. What a big cost to get the Taliyah. So much open, but we suddenly see a Braum, and things are going to start to get interesting on the blue side.
And to be frank, I'm going to just put this out there. The LCK plays Nocturne far better than the LPL does. Even in MLXG, we saw it happen at MSI. It looked like a god, and then it looked like it was intentionally feeding. Hopefully we get more of the god and not the power inting, but it still really hasn't connected the dots for the LPL teams.
Oh, power
Power
inting.
inting,
That's some
so
LPL analysis.
Oh, that's what I remember from my time over there. So good.
Speaking of,
yeah, the Mundo is going to be locked in here by Kingzone, and yeah, speaking of remembering from our times with RNG, Uzi going to take away his Lucian, skating around Summoner's Rift with his theoretical Essence Reaver. I'm ready, Froskerin!
And if you remember 2014 Samsung White versus Starhorn Royal Club,
we're going back a long way.
Yeah, it was
remembering some more disappointment.
when we have to like really dig deep to the things that we qualified for and we
That's
matter,
true.
you got to go way back. Just skip over
The
2014.
trauma sticks with you, Froskerin. I understand.
The point is, 28-3 that year on Lucian. It's a signature champion for him, and I'm getting a little bit more confident. I saw the MLXG Nocturne. I was like, oh, maybe not. But
I'm going to put on
Lucian,
the very wide asterisk of, if you remember, LPL was the only region to play on just the most broken Lucian patch, and somehow he played it every game. But zooming in on this particular game, where are we going for Kingzone? Because you see a Braum, and your first thought is just kind of old battle scars from funnels, and you understand that. Still, Braum does have a lot of value against Zoe when it comes to just the power of the Unbreakable. Still, there's the outside chance this is less of a funnel than we first presumed. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly right. But the bans coming through thick and fast, guys. We've got 280 carries taken away, Varus and Ashe. Of course, the Prey specials with all their engaged potential, and Shen. No Shen Nocturne to come out from RNG, and only 4 seconds until Kingzone can make their final ban decision. Tahm Kench going to be taken away from Ming.
So the read from RNG is going to be the Taliyah funnel like we saw from KT. They see Taliyah Braum, they think, okay, it's going to be the KT strategy. That's why they ban away initiation 80 carries from Prey, the god of Varus and Ashe for the longest time. That read can still be modified. Kingzone aren't bound to going for that strategy, but it is a very smart first thought from RNG. Let's see what they do. Do they try to attack a theoretical composition or play to their own? Speaking of compositions, we do get the Morgana, likely to be the bot lane. Of course, they already have the Lucian, so we think we have the entire bot lane from RNG.
Yeah, and there's so many target bans. There's a lot of these huge priority picks that have made it through, and Morgana certainly one of them. Going to be taken away by RNG. Would have been something that Kingzone would have liked. And is this going to be the Draven? Draven into Lucian's a good matchup.
Are we going to see the Praven? It's been so long!
So long. Here we go. Prey and Gorilla going to be handling the Draven, and Rakan gets through until the very end. This could be what Kingzone were looking for, because now it's standard lanes. There ain't no funnel here, Papa Smith.
Okay, you need to take a deep breath.
No, there's not.
You got analysts
What's
to talk
happening
to.
here?
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. There's a lot happening. Too excited.
Sorry,
Katie Ross is not even here. What do you got, Frosco? What do you got?
I'm just super excited that I finally see a team throw down the gauntlet and say that we're not just going to give away to Uzi and Ming, that they're going to pick up the Draven, that they're going to grab the Rakan, that they have so much kill pressure. That said, Uzi just played this lane. The last best of series that RNG had before coming into Rift Rivals was across from Jackie Love, a Draven specialist.
And I completely agree. It's where I was going as well. LPL has played a lot more Draven. The Praven memory is more of an ironic name than a real one. It's not a big champion for him. Recently, okay.
The Shy did it first. Zatai is doing it now. New Aatrox now. Pre-hotfix in the hands of the man that plays basically every champion ever.
That said, with the Zatai special, by playing, like you said, every champion ever, there are virtually no tanks. There is no type of frontline for RNG. This is power picks across the board for them. A lot of comfort champions, but more so about the poke, about the spell fling, about the skirmish.
But let's talk about what the new Aatrox here represents compared to what we saw in the previous draft against a Korean team playing Funnel. They drafted a losing matchup of Mundo into Darius. This is a winning matchup. Aatrox smashes Mundo. From everything I have heard and seen, with all the missing health damage, with all the damage in general, early levels before a few items, this should be a great lane for the Aatrox. They're actually playing to Zatai being the big-time leader for the early game.
And I think it's so important because it's not just about the winning top lane, it's about making sure that you have potential to win all of the lanes and protect that Nocturne. A big reason why the Nocturne keeps failing in the LPL is that the lanes collapse. A big difference between LCK and LPL is LPL junglers play around their laners, LCKs play around their junglers.
Well, we're going to get into it. Zatai and MLXG having their chance up against Kingzone. Didn't in the final at MSI and certainly do now. Aatrox going to be a huge point of power for RNG, but can it be all they have? I almost said IG then because Zatai used to play for that team. Not anymore over on RNG.
We don't have enough time for the history lesson on Zatai. It's 3 different roles, multiple different teams, starting at 13. It's a long story.
You just did it.
There's more. There's more.
I know, but
I think there's some nuance there, Atlas.
But the thing is it's been a long time coming. Raz said it on the desk. It's such a sweet moment for Zatai. He finally gets his chance at taking down an LCK team, but we'll see if he's able to do it.
Yeah, can prove himself now on an international stage. Kingzone, so much riding on this, so much Korean pride. We remember after 2017 Rift Rivals, it was an awful time. There were jokes about the Korean players having to swim back home. It was an awful time for our Korean players, but now able to have a chance to get that pride back. And right now, against RNG, revenge from MSI.
And the Praven, it's back. It's a mirage so many times at Champion Select Hover. Again, more of an ironic title. He's not known for his excellence of Draven compared to the Ashe and the Varus and the Initiation.
Still has a global ult.
But the pick in lane, this time, instead of playing around Uzi, they're attacking it.
Well, here we are, Summoner's Rift for the final game of the day. It all comes down to this. If Kingzone win, it's going to be an LCK victory. If RNG win, a home crowd LPL victory. And thankfully, we brought FLICKR in with us to take us through. Xiaohu now skipping around the mid lane, but not exactly having the greatest time as BDD, now with the funnel available to him as Peanut on the Braum.
And I know that you guys are talking about the Praven, a bit ironic. Hopefully he's able to throw down the gauntlet, take it to Uzi, and at least match a lane. But for me, of course, it's the funnel comp. Everything is focused on BDD, on his signature champion of the Taliyah. A lot of resources set for him, and immediately out of the gate, splitting the map, a delayed invade, and starting on MLXG's blue side.
Yep, they're going to be picking up that blue buff. MLXG now having to deal with Khan, who's also trying to get that pesky Nocturne out of the jungle, and is potentially going to do so. The cleavers are picked up, and now it's a 2 versus 1, yeah. MLXG, no Dustbringer available. Does, of course, have the Smite, so can get a bit of health back, but Zatai, he's going to dance around the buff and is going to help lock it down for MLXG, but now very low on health moving throughout his jungle.
I like the aggressive level 1 just to guarantee the camp for Kingzone.
But already there's a 2v2 happening on bottom side. Uzi has the flash to get out of the way of Prey, and that's gotta feel good for Kingzone.
And this is what I'm talking about. The delay invade splits the map, causes vertical jungling, and it means that there is no help coming. So it unlocks Gorilla and Prey that they can step forward and be that aggressive
And
level
we call
1.
it vertical jungling because it means the bot side is much stronger and safer for Kingzone, and the reverse is true on the top side. You might say, okay, we already said that it's a great matchup for Aatrox. Now he's going to have a field day. While true, Mundo's strength in lane is that he cannot be denied. He can farm from range with the cleavers. He already knew he was in a bad spot, so he's going to be happy enough to just play defensive and hug his turret.
And then ultimately, I just love Mundo in this meta. I think he's one of the most overlooked picks in terms of the LPL. We don't have a ton of high priority on the champion just because of how his kit works and just giving him free items. He can itemize into the early defensive stats, and because of its ultimate, it's basically like he gets a free Warmogs.
Big irony is, though, FLICKR, and I actually think Mundo's overrated for the LCK, because if you're running Marksman, if you're getting Zoe, then Mundo has a great identity. Soak, interrupt, no poking with mages, but I'm going to have to interrupt my own point.
Yeah,
we're
got
going down.
4-man dive under this bottom turret. Uzi gets black shielded, but who cares? He's straight up dead. Talia grabbing first blood. MLXG comes in, trying to get more work done. Zatai trying to get the AoE in there, flashes forward, picks up Prey. It's answered immediately, but can they get more? Xiaohu makes his way forward, and RNG decimate Kingzone.
I love the idea from Kingzone, though. They recognize that Uzi was the guy to take down. They try to set up the dive, but they don't have all of the vision, all of the information. The immediate teleport from Zatai, whereas Mundo is still in lane.
Remember teleports and remember the early game adjustments. People get to lane so damn fast after the death timers were made shorter in the early game. So when you really consider what was gained and what was lost, it's even a bigger advantage for RNG than it may first appear, unless Prey can pull off a deep freeze and they can replay the play again.
Well, looks like he is going to be able to do that. Moves the creeps out of the way. Will mean Gorilla gets a bit more of that experience as well, but Xiaohu can do the same thing in the mid lane. We need to get the Talia over here, but currently taking the red buff as the funnel is going to get held off here by Peanut, doing the best that he can there. But now Uzi in a dangerous spot on the bottom side.
Yeah, and it does mean that, like you were saying, there's the wave, the fact that everyone's pulled forward. The only remaining flash bottom is, of course, Ning. MLXG should be hovering around the area just to give security for Uzi and Ming to shove this in and reset.
And honestly, it's not just the security. He's got a pretty decent shoving tool of his own in the Duskbringer, so he has to play bot side pretty extensively here to try to cover any weaknesses.
Khan in a lot of trouble. Zatai. That Darkened Blade does a lot of damage, especially when you can...
damage.
Yeah, setting up that passive.
Damage. It's a real dog matchup for the Mundo. He really cannot do much in this lane. Prey still trying to continue that freeze. They put in a lot. One thing you can say to Kingzone, it's a sliver. It wasn't an ideal dive. If in the early game you're trading and also the funnel is hitting its CS numbers, there's probably not going to be turrets going down. We always say win condition is 3 turrets down pre-15. That's 5 minutes right now the game in a place of parity.
Yeah, and it's a different kind of funnel here as well. Using BDD on the Talia, is it the same as having a marksman in a funneled position? What's the change when it comes to Talia being the funnel target?
Overleveled Mundo means, overleveled Talia, I should say, does of course mean specifically the Weaver's War earlier. We're going to watch the replay here of the attempted dive.
Yep.
Ty actually got screwed when it came to the first Q. This could have even been a bigger play. But the flash in, the missing health damage, the mechanics there, the crowd goes wild. The difference with the Talia is it's burst and it's the Weaver's War early. It's not necessarily the consistent damage that a marksman always provides.
Exactly. It's the ability for Talia to impact the side lanes and have a massive impact across the map much earlier than any other champion. But hold on.
Stand behind me used by Peanut. And now Xiaohu finds himself having to deal with threaded volleys. Seismic shot avoided. Nice sidestep from Xiaohu. Has his eye in at the moment on the Zoe as this Rift Scuttler should go over to Kingzone.
But this is the control of having the Talia and having the Braum available. The fact that they get the early rotation to the river, that they're working with Prey and Gorilla, and just setting up the security net.
Speaking of setting up, yeah, MLXG looking for Peanut. Doesn't have a lot of places to go. Xiaohu taking a lot of damage, but Peanut has to deal with MLXG's on a killing spree now. Trouble Bubble lands, see your death. BDD is now RNG, one more auto, that's it, 4-0-1 MLXG.
Peanut has his summoners up, uses flash, holds on to the exhaust. They give up 2 kills there, trying to play with their food a bit, Kingzone.
And that looks disastrous for Kingzone, but that was so close to being brilliant for Kingzone. Like you're saying, just small misuses there.
Infernal Chains at the wall is very good for Zatai. Umbral Dash actually looked decent, but Khan gonna just walk away.
He has everything to screw over Amundo. He has healing reduction, he has missing health damage. He also does a hell of a lot of damage early before the tank items are in. Walking up halfway down the lane, scary times for Khan.
And now you have to think that maybe you go back towards the draft phase. The fact that Aatrox was given so much respect on day one, not to be seen in this match when it really counts in this matchup.
Well, Zatai looking for it. The flash used by Khan, but now the funnel comes in. The Weaver's Wall, and Zatai nowhere to go. Wish he had the Dark Flight, but doesn't anymore. And now he's dead.
Nice turnaround by Kingzone. Needed to make that play around cooldowns. Flash being up on the Mundo and down on Zatai. They'll lose some turret health for it, but that was one of the few times they could actually have some resistance to the Aatrox onslaught.
And I was just about to pay respect, of course, to letting the Aatrox go through, maybe being a mistake because they spared a ban on that Xayah that you were talking about earlier. So much priority in the LCK. And yes, Uzi has played it. He's also played it with the funnel strategy, but it has never been a champion that has really spoken to Uzi. So much criticism leveled at him over 2017 Worlds. Where is the Xayah? Why aren't you playing it? And it just hasn't fit in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, and also they played that funnel comp with very interesting champions as well. Didn't necessarily feel like the same kind with Braum, Alistair, as opposed to Black Shields and other shields from Karmas and things like that.
We already alluded to where the funnel comp will be different. Now, Taliyah rips through camps. However, Taliyah has been on the map so much, there isn't even a CS lead for the Taliyah. If you look at the CS between Taliyah and Zoe, which is how we really inspect the funnel comp, they're basically in parity now at this point. So because of all the action, trying to hit the side lanes, you don't necessarily have the fallback of a 40 CS up Taliyah that we did see from Yukal yesterday.
And I do like the response that when they saw the Taliyah priority pick, knowing that it's been such a heavy funnel composition, knowing her ability to impact side lanes, that RNG immediately went for the Zoe and the Nocturne. Two champions that can also follow very well with their long distance, either through the Paddle Star or through the Paranoia, and try to keep up with the tempo and pace that Taliyah can set.
Well, at the moment, Kingzone just trying to lick their wounds just a little bit. 1,000 gold behind. If you have a look at a funnel comp generally, 1,000 gold behind is absolutely fine, and no turrets have been taken as of yet. But it feels ominous now if you're an LCK fan looking on, because RNG, they've got an incredibly fed MLXG.
And an incredibly deep Nocturne.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's going to poke his head around Kingzone. I think they know what's going on. Trouble Bubble is going to land Unbreakable. Absorbs it, but doesn't absorb that damage. Seismic Shove eaten, but Xiaohu doesn't care. Portal Jump gets him out.
Lane priority in the bot side, we saw Draven pushed in. Not what you'd expect in the Draven vs. Lucian matchup. In the Uzi vs. Spray matchup, well, reviewers tilt on that one. Able to get a red buff still, but crucially, goes to Ming.
Yeah, he's still ranged auto attacker. That's fine. Can have a bit more CC on the Morgana.
I mean, the unfortunate reality is just because of how things have splintered with Nocturne being so fed that the jungle mid pivot point has just really gone in favor of RNG, and it's starting to bleed into other sides of the map.
Yeah, now you've got Xiaohu actually almost ahead in farm, as Whirling Blade's going to have to fly through and clear out a minion wave and not even achieve that.
Almost ahead.
Almost ahead, yeah. Well, it's the best we can say at the moment, Frosco. Okay, you can have that one.
That's what I say about the LPL every year. We're almost ahead.
You're ahead now, come on.
Here we go.
Paranoia towards the bottom side. Prey just has to run. Still going to get feared after the flash, but it does create enough distance. Makes his way up, but that's all they wanted. Got the Summoner spell.
They'll have the repeat gank available as well. So Summoner down, and now Morgana with Summoners up can pose a lot of threat to a Draven as well.
And it's not just the repeat gank, it's kind of what they want to take after that. It's, are we going to sack the bottom lane and then try to protect the mid lane, or are we going to use this advantage that we've created bot lane to also impact that mid lane tower, which is very weak. A stiff breeze would throw that one down, and RNG are setting up these chess pieces to start snowballing this game and unlocking the lanes.
And Prey's had to go for a very piecemeal build. Has a Vampiric Scepter in a lane where he's expected to dominate. Usually we see Draven as opponent going for something like a Vamp Scepter, and that's what we saw from Lucian. The Blade of the Ruin King will be natural. It's going to probably be Bloodthirster, which is the usual way to go on Draven. Bloodthirster into situational. Rapid Fire Cannon, i.e. that could be the build. The top side, Khan feigning aggression.
Okay, just going to smack down Zatai a little bit. Of course,
he's saying my jungler is top side. That's what he's trying to threaten. Doesn't really have a jungler, so
his jungler was mid lane and standing in the lane as well. So he was just being Khan, which is a general move that he likes to do. Trouble Bubble again lands. Peanut's got to start respecting that. It's going to start hurting. Thankfully, Runic Echoes comes in onto BDD, very strong at the moment, so he's hit a power spike, and now the Weaver's Wall going to be utilized. Can they get him? He gets the Blast Cone before the Seismic Shove, and MLXG just keeps farming.
Feeling confident there that he had access to the blast cone, but that did look close to a classic MLXG moment.
That was a bit of a tongue twister. Close to a classic with the clan. Speaking of which, Uzi now in trouble on the bottom side. Ming pops an auto attack as well.
Didn't mention it, but his Conqueror on the Draven doesn't have the ability to extend it like melee champions, but he's definitely going to have a burst of real damage against any threat.
Yeah. And now the turret going to be taken down. Another Zoe and another very nice lane against the Taliyah.
And you're saying another Zoe. The reason why we're seeing such a confident blind Zoe pick is her ability to secure first tower almost every single time there.
Yep, does so pretty easily. Portal Jump is going to help her grab another blue buff, but no, MLXG is going to take that. That's his favorite thing to do in the world. Almost 80 CS on the Nocturne, having a day out today is MLXG.
A sort of game that's gone different to a lot of the funnels we've seen in Korea, and that something like other turrets up or down, a 3-turret to 0 win condition, isn't really a true reflection of this game. BDD doesn't have the CS lead to fall back upon. This game is eminently even.
Well, Ultimate not going to land onto the Zoe as Gorilla has to get the hell out of the way of MLXG. Ming, he's looking for the Dark Binding, doesn't get it. Gentleman's agreement, and we all back away.
That was a very interesting hit and run there.
A lot of interesting geometry, but...
Yeah, pressing a bunch of buttons and then not a lot happened.
I failed that class.
RNG have control bot side. When the Draven was picked to get control, top side's going better for the Mundo than expected. He's actually up in CS, which is a bit counter logic on both sides. Shout out to North America. But what we're seeing here in terms of impact, we're seeing the Drakes go down. We're seeing the gold lead grow up. Things are going well for RNG against this farm.
Yeah, and now a stopwatch is available for Khan as well. Has his Sunfire cape, now wanting to just continue building up, but Zatai still will pose a threat. MLXG takes his second blue buff in a row, and is this time going to give it over to Xiaohu. Is he? There it is. Okay, Trouble Bob is going to help him grab that one. Now goes back home. We'll see what he's going to be able to pick up with this current back. See whether it's going to be Luden's Echo completed or whether it's just a few more items towards it.
It's also about where Xiaohu's going to strike on the map next. So like you're saying, there's Luden's Echo, big power spike now coming in for the Zoe, and she can just walk back to the mid lane, shove it, but then the question is, do you go up and try to assist the Aatrox? Do you go down bottom and try to take what has been a pushing lane in your favor for a majority of the game? How are you utilizing the paranoia? Again, RNG have set the pieces. They now have the opportunity to make one big push, try to snowball this game open, and Kingzone need to now be aware. Something's about to happen, and how do we absorb this so we can stall, get Draven his items, get Mundo more comfortable in that top lane, and look towards our grouped up 5v5.
And while the grouped up 5v5 for a comp with Taliyah receiving the majority of the gold might not sound terrifying, the fact that the Mundo has gone way better than expected, up in CS and hitting his item spikes, Mundo very cleanly answers any sort of control or poke mage and AD carries. They're both on the side of RNG. There is definitely an item timing and this moment in the game where we won't see Zoe with the same impact if everyone else on Kingzone can keep up with Khan.
And my favorite thing about Mundo is there's literally nothing on RNG's composition that can really deal or stop him in a grouped up 5v5. He's just going to rock back onto Uzi's face, and Uzi's going to have to either kill him or back out of the fight.
Or if Zoe's the easier target and her flash is down,
exactly.
Absolutely. So there's great value here. That's why the point, as I mentioned before, was we see a lot less of these sort of comps in Korea where Mundo can take advantage. Mundo, speaking of taking advantage.
Yeah, exactly. The World End is going to come out of Zatai, but he's going to go down to the Bloodwell and crawl under this tower. Khan is under there with him. Infernal Chains is going to come down, but that's a solo kill. And Khan's got a full health bar. What the heck is this? It's, okay, pre-hotfix Aatrox. He's not very strong.
Oh, yeah, blame it on the hotfix, not on Zatai.
Look, guys, it was the best of Aatroxes. It was the worst of Aatroxes.
It was, and now the bottom lane's doing the same thing. Gorilla taking down Ming. Soul Shackles gets a stun onto Prey, and now Xiaohu turns up. Taliyah's here as well, and Uzi has to run Kingzone. They lose one, but they trade supports in the end. RNG unable to capitalize.
Yes, things are starting to fall apart at the seams here. Xiaohu maybe hunting.
Yeah, portal jumps over. Peanut wants to be able to get the concussive blows, but now in comes the Nocturne. MLXG hates that idea. He's going to immediately
jump
out of their sleepy trouble bubble onto the right target. They grab the Braum, and now they're looking for more. Zatai teleports in. Double kill for Xiaohu. That's going to be 3. BDD to fall down as well. And somehow RNG destroy Kingzone.
If it's going sideways, keep pushing it through. Triangle peg, round hole, just smash it in there, boys.
And it's also the MLXG Jesus moment. That is definitely a coronation because it looked like a suicide, but he goes in to buy time for the Aatrox to join.
Oh, it was.
No.
You
There was
guys
a call.
wish you could see the
I'm going to
incredulous
give
look on
MLXG
Froster's
the
face.
benefit of the doubt because they had the teleport up. I looked at it and said, can they get Aatrox there? The fight will be over. Just going in and baiting a further re-engage from Peanut and friends bought time for Aatrox to close the distance, and Aatrox was the match winner in that fight.
I will say this, the LPL has always been the 51% region. If it's a 50-50, we just believe that we're better, and we're just going to find that coin flip, and it's going to land heads for us. Worked out that time around.
As it all stands now, we've got a 5,000 gold lead approximately for RNG. The funnel still under effect, 20 minutes to go, 2 turrets in favor of RNG as well. As we'll have a look at this one yet again. Ming, the hero.
And Ming is the true support of the LPL. I think he is taking the crown from Mako. He just seems so well-rounded, especially in his peeling. And this is where I get a bit white-knuckled, Papa.
I understand that, and it definitely looks Rambo when they actually go for the engage. As we're watching it here, goes in, but consider what else is happening. They're able to walk up, they get the teleport up. Kingzone's caught in 2 guys, there's nowhere to escape, and Xiaohu flanks them. The Aatrox comes from the front, and even Uzi's there for the cleanup. So they actually had a 2-point plan, not just the 1-point C-kill hero.
And the thing is that Zatai was never really known for his teleports and how he coordinated with the team. He was always supposed to be the 1-4 top laner. It was Let Me that was their big 5v5 TP guy. So definitely proving why he was worthy to bring to Rift Rivals on the international stage.
Yeah, well, the dust all settling. Kingzone struggling. However, it's only 2 turrets and 15 minutes. Papa told me last game.
No.
15
Throw
minutes,
that one out for this game.
15 minutes, 3 turrets.
I like how
Did Papa tell you about the Talia being behind in farm?
What did Papa tell me?
That's not a funnel. That's a crappy funnel, Atlas.
Yeah, man. Papa gave me the wrong information.
I told you that the cheat sheet was for tomorrow's test, not today.
Dang it. I was always so bad at school.
That's how you ended up here.
Stay in school, kids. Stay in school.
I ended up in Rift Rivals because I was bad at school.
Probably a few pro gamers that are also there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, 5,000 gold, certainly going to be the lead here for RNG. Can Kingzone turn it around? I have a feeling it ain't all over yet because that Mundo still has a lead. That win condition still exists. But RNG, they can see exactly where they need to attack. They're going to be taking down the top lane outer turret, the last remaining outer turret on the map.
And that's the question. Is there a breaking point where Kingzone's composition just is unkillable and RNG are punished for not having any sort of front line?
Is there a breaking point for the funnel where they have control of 1 quadrant of their jungle, let alone 2, let alone the 3 that we see when a team gets ahead? We're going to be getting solo gold onto Uzi. Music to the ears, exactly. Very, very standard. For the side of RNG. And for Kingzone, their next playmaking needs to be either necessitated on defense or a success, as it's an aggressive Rift Herald over the wall, and all Khan can do is pick up a turret, and he doesn't even have TP to hit the fight path.
Yeah, this guy is a one-man army right now, while RNG are just taking everything else on the map. You're talking about the Kingzone defense, the fact that they just kind of have to sit back, take what's given to them, and Khan is the only guy confident enough that can reach out on this map and grab anything.
Well, he's certainly doing that. However, losing that inner turret on the top side of the map, and Shelly grabbing herself a charge there on that one as well, is dangerous here for Kingzone. Having a lot of top side control for RNG, certainly good in the enemy jungle because that Baron just spawned 24 seconds ago. Now Kingzone grouped as 4, wanting to try and get towards Xiaohu, grouped as 5. I tell a lie, Khan finally turns up with the rest of his team.
See how they want to reclaim some sort of control on the map. That is the struggle here for Kingzone DragonX. They aren't able to hold into any quadrants of their map. They need bot and top as a minimum. Otherwise, without that, that is a pretty significant struggle when it comes to controlling the map. They're going to get red buffs. They were able to take a Drake, but they're so far behind in tempo that Nocturne plus tempo is usually a disaster for any team.
Yeah, and MLXG having control of a Fed champion makes me shiver as an LCK fan, because you just never know what he's going to do with the power as Xiaohu throws in a trouble bubble. It gets collected by Gorilla, but he's not quite in there enough. Infernal Chains comes down, and Peanut has to get the hell out of there. Whirling Blades comes back. I thought that it was actually aimed at Peanut, but thankfully the Draven's on their team, and now RNG looking to continue the pressure. Cleaver lands from Khan, and Uzi takes a fair bit of damage, but isn't too worried. In goes Xiaohu, gets the Ignite onto BDD. They They find the culling. Khan down extremely low, but does have the ultimate, and they just pressure them off the turret.
And you talk about the fact that Nocturne offers so much power when teams have tempo, but it's also in the Zoe. And RNG have played this composition, played this situation out a million times in the LPL. They're not going to turn towards Baron unless it's absolutely necessary, because they know that that's Kingzone's only way back into the game. So if they want to, they're going to continue to siege and use this spell-flinging Zoe as long as possible.
Just feels like there's really nothing to show for Kingzone's early game. For their attempt at a funnel, the person who's being funneled is behind in CS, obviously even basically, but effectively behind in CS, especially behind expectation, behind an experienced the enemy jungler and mid laner. In general, none of the fallback, none of the expectations around the Taliyah have been able to match what we saw from UCAL yesterday. Part of that was about their botched engage down bot lane, where they tried to increase the tempo, maybe to actually buy themselves breathing space, but then ended up smothering themselves a little bit with how much was lost for the Draven. Honestly, the Draven has really been able to do very little this game, and a fed Nocturne can delete a fed Draven pretty fast.
And that's the big thing for me. It was the fact that where all of the gold landed for RNG was in Nocturne's pocket. So then suddenly you have this funnel that is unable to freely access its own jungle for fear that MLXG and Zoe can walk into it at any time and threaten kill pressure.
I'm glad you mentioned the Zoe, because she's damn strong at the moment as well. We've been talking about MLXG, but 2-0-4 on Xiaohu's Zoe that's undefeated so far this season.
The shining light.
Yeah, there he is.
All that Kingzone have.
It's been a while since Khan's been that for the team. Hasn't necessarily been their best performing member at the moment. Certainly made a splash when he arrived.
I mean, if this is his international performance, already heads and tails better than it was at MSI. Solo kills the Mundo Aatrox matchup.
Yep, feels damn good about it too, as Xiaohu still threatening every single paddle star. Feels real bad for anyone that gets hit by it, apart from Khan. He just doesn't care, even though he's got no magic resist.
Every single paddle star gets them closer to a Baron that might just kill the game here for the side of RNG. The wave clear from Taliyah will be irrelevant in that case, and Draven not great away. Draven's just dead.
Prey getting picked up as Xiaohu not going to get thrown back, and Bray thankfully gets out of the trouble bubble.
Needed the assist from the Mundo there, otherwise that battle star was going to be lethal.
And this is what I was talking about earlier with RNG. A lot of LPL teams will just immediately turn on the Baron and take the 50-50. RNG have really taken their time trying to set this up. Even Nocturne taking care of the top lane wave, pushing that in and having Paranoia, and here they go.
Bind lands onto Khan. That is so much damage. Paranoia comes in. They need to kill this big old tank. He's got a stopwatch, but Grievous Wounds is down, and he's going to get knocked up and destroyed. Zatai gets some revenge, and now feels like it's all over for Kingzone. Good flash from Prey. Gorilla gets out. Peanut also surviving for the minute. But that is going to be down to the passive of the ultimate, and Zatai survives, and Peanut does not.
That's 2 members down for the side of Kingzone. RNG, they want to break the base on this push.
Yep, could have been worse though. So they're now looking to try and clear out the minion wave. May not be Baron off this one as Ming takes a fair bit of damage, but teleport is going to mean that RNG can get this inhibitor, and can they just go back and get more as Uzi just teleported back in?
I mean, the only good news is that if they did turn towards the Baron, that the teleport would be back up because Khan is up in 4 seconds, and the smite technically didn't die because it is in BDD's pocket.
Yeah. Okay, got a little bit overexcited.
That's understandable. RNG cresting upon being able to qualify for that first spot. If you remember last year, it was the LCK that stood in the final, that waited for the last day, and eventually the LPL was able to come out triumphant. And look over the replay of this action. It all starts onto the Mundo. He's the closest target. They're actually able to DPS him down. And from there, RNG definitely sniffed blood.
And a blind binding, too. There was a lot of control vision set up by the LCK, which is why Khan felt safe being there. He's the Mundo. He feels like he has control over the vision. And it's just one of those circumstances where the binding connects, the gold lead speaks for itself. And my favorite part is actually Zatai walking face first into damage when he doesn't necessarily need to.
My favorite part was Xiaohu using his flash to line up the most incredible trouble bubble onto Prey that I've almost ever seen in the chaos of a crazy team fight.
You're a glass half full kind of person.
I am, and I also love Xiaohu, always have.
Biased caster.
Gamty, my all-time favorite.
Biased caster.
Oh, have you seen their jerseys?
I remember we casted together.
I know, so you understand what I'm saying.
Those were the ugliest jerseys I've ever
They
seen.
had pandas on them.
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. Pandas plus a brown background. Glorious.
Well, it's going to be a gray background for Kingzone DragonX soon if they can't find a way to actually get into this game. But you look down the draft, and what does a one-team fight look like? To me, it has to be a pick, and right now they don't have map control to get a pick. The Weaver's Wall has been just completely anonymous after being so big so far this tournament. Just feels like we're holding our breath if you're Kingzone, waiting for a Paranoia.
I mean, you're absolutely right. We've been dancing around the topic because we all see that the Sharks are circling in on Kingzone. I'm with you. I think it has to be Gorilla, though, if we're talking about a big pick opportunity. He's going to have to pull out some godlike performance, which he did before at
what
MSI.
happens next? What happens next? Where is the damage? Is it Rylai's Zonia's coming through from the Talia? Is it Draven sitting on one item?
Well, he's got BF Sword. That's like a nice conquer. Boom.
I haven't seen him do much damage so far this game, but he has got some Whirling Death to throw into the Baron Pit, and that's going to make sure that RNG pull away. But Kingzone don't know that just yet. Portal Jump going to be easily anticipated there by Khan to grab that Cleaver. And now Blue Trinket used. They know that they're not at the Baron, but have to be really careful with their positioning. Kingzone pressing towards the outer turret in mid.
I mean, one advantage that Kingzone do to continuously press forward like this is that there's not a lot of consistent hard CC out of RNG's composition. Like, the Paranoia goes down, but there's no Alistar.
Has that ever happened before? He didn't use it!
I've never seen...
I've never seen MXG knock him in.
That was insane.
I was like, what did I miss?
This is a huge moment.
Whoa.
Karsa's been training him.
Permabench now.
Literally
she's
trolled
got the
me.
range.
I honestly thought something amazing had happened.
It did!
It was amazing. What the hell? That was MLXG agreeing not to go in.
He didn't kill himself. He didn't power in.
Exactly!
All right, well, now that Paranoia is on cooldown,
We've all grown
an
some
opportunity
for sure.
Kingzone. I think we have. Certainly, maybe not in the right direction, but I'm enjoying it.
Oh, deep breath.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed.
Yeah,
nothing
it's all
has
the same.
changed.
It's all the same.
Guys,
10,000 gold lead for RNG. Things looking great for China.
And nothing has changed. Kingzone have not been able to move their position forward. They've abandoned their Baron hopes, RNG, and RNG's turn-off Baron is so scary. It's mostly implied by Trouble Bubble cooldown and Paranoia, so with Paranoia down, they do get another back in. Prey does go buy some items, but he's just still putting together gold. We'll see where he goes on his next item. I guess a rapid-fire cannon?
Yeah.
But I was going to say, glass half full. I mean, RNG have been sitting on this Baron for the last 10 minutes. They're finally going to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, well, they are going to see, so Kingzone, Kingzone do know what's going on. Teleport from Prey will get him in. BDD, Dark Binding's going to land the smite. Nowhere near the pit, but it's going to be MLXG that locks it down. Now down to his GA, but Gorilla, he's already fallen. Zatai in amongst the fight yet again, and that is Prey falling down. He goes down to the passive as well. Zatai being a beast in this fight so far. Trouble Bubble lands, the follow-up CC's there, and Shao is going to help pick up the kill. Shao almost dies as BDD's being troublesome, but MLXG, good God, the damage of the Nocturne. That's going to be that, the ace for RNG, and LPL should pick up the #1 seed.
And two metas clash here. We had the ADC, the standard composition, versus the funnel of the LCK, but the crown is too heavy for Kingzone. They cannot wear it, and kneel before your gods, because RNG will take it again.
Should we kneel, actually? I don't know whether I can. I think this cable's got, there's a lot of excuses, but Nexus falls down and RNG are going to be victorious. They claim the first seed, and Kingzone once again falter against this team.
But unlike MSI, in a very different setting in front of their home fans, there doesn't need to be elation. This is just business as usual for the side of RNG, and sadly for Kingzone, like FLICKR alluded to, the Butchers of the LPL gets it right. The issue is that when they have to be the one of the LCK, when Kingzone have to represent at the last, again and again, they have been unable to do that. Well-deserved victory for RNG. The funnel definitely fell apart early when we never saw any of the sort of markers. The checklist for the funnel, for once, was actually guilty, not the checklist against when it comes to timings. And in the end, the closeout just seemed inevitable for RNG.
Yeah, and this time around, the Talia not working out yet again. It was Yukal that was successful, but otherwise, no one has really been able to do it on the side of the LCK. Kuro also falling down just a little bit, so we'll see whether we park that particular strategy for the moment.
And on the other side, an LPL victory, another RNG victory, but in very different circumstances. This wasn't just about Uzi and his Lucian. This was about Xiaohu and his Zoe, about Zatai and his Aatrox, minus one of those solo kills.
But it was Zatai winning the game out of teleports and not solo play on the top side of the map. The opposite of what Zatai embodies as a player. I think it's a sign of him growing.
And I like to think about what this tournament means to teams. I already meant it's a different statement for each team. Kingzone comes into this tournament wanting to come back from, of course, their big loss at MSI. In the actual match, they lose. Earlier today, they lose. I want to see them tomorrow lead with Kingzone against the LMS and find a victory for this team, because there's a chance they don't pick up a victory at this international tournament.
At what point do we start labeling Kingzone as the Edward Gaming of Korea? Because they are starting to take on this identity of chokers. So many expectations, the weight of the crown, the weight of the cape, and they are just being pulled down.
Here's the one thing that separates me from being able to do that, the venue. Rift Rivals. If this was Worlds and this happened again, I think they have to earn that title, the title that no one wants to be ascribed to. Because it's Rift Rivals, because, of course, at MSI they made the final and were close over the course of 4 games. It's not fair yet, but you're right, we're starting to run out of rope here for Kingzone. They need to come up strong, and even tomorrow I want to see them early and I want to see them with a statement game, because otherwise leaving Korea seems to be a nightmare for Kingzone DragonX.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. Of course, the swim is a little bit shorter this time around because Dalian very close to South Korea. However, you definitely don't want to. But that's going to be it for our final game here today. So let's throw it over to the desk to see what they made of the LPL victory.
Thank you so much, guys. And LPL caster Raz, LPL caster Clement. Feels good to be in the best region in the world, doesn't it?
Oh, you calm down, man. You calm
Yeah.
down. That was super fun to see. RNG once again, and this was Zatai on the roster. Didn't get the chance to do it last time around. Picking up the Aatrox and being the reason why so many of those team fights came into their favor. It feels good for Zatai, and it feels good for the RNG.
I have to say, though, going into this match, I was thinking about how was LPL going to answer the gold funneling composition.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't really answer it, but they outplayed Kingzone to the degree where it did not matter. Usually when Talia goes bot lane, she's thinking about 5 minutes, 30 seconds. I'm going to have the early Weaver's Wall, and we're just going to crush that lane. Kingzone followed up beautifully with that execution, but they were a little impatient. They didn't get the Weaver's Wall. They wanted the early kill because they got the early flash. And I actually think it mainly came down to RNG's execution around the tower that led to this game collapsing.
And it was the reaction, like you said, from RNG on that first dive from Kingzone. The early start to try and claim momentum in this series in front of the home crowd here in China to try and upset. I'm sure we've got that replay coming at you in just a moment. But
ultimately, it comes down to the defense that Aatrox brought for them. So much zone control, the, of course, flash. We've seen this time and again. The Shy had it before. Knock up, damage for Gorilla as well. And Nocturne cleans it up because he's fairly healthy. He can just run in and finish off the fight. So RNG with an impeccable dive and a great follow-up.
The biggest point for me was starting that dive, Uzi actually moved towards the tower range and didn't let Kingzone finish the kill and then walk outside of it. So what that meant was Kingzone was stuck underneath tower and they had to walk through the choke. With Aatrox gets triple knockups on just one ability and is able to finish off with Death Stance extra range onto Prey, onto the Braven,
Calm down.
after the flash. So that was a huge mechanical outplay, and it just goes to show you, Uzi, calm under stress, always making the best mechanical plays to really flip the script.
And again, this is why we laud him as the best AD carry in the world right now, and it is looking so well for RNG that they're able to continue doing this on, though where we are starting to see a little bit more of the super team of RNG is when they are able to communicate under highly stressful situations. It's not just Uzi who keeps his cool, it's when we're seeing the 5-man dive bottom just a few minutes later.
On the fly, it really feels like at first you're like, I don't know what's actually happening here.
Yeah.
It's interesting because
support difference.
It went for quite a while, and I think that Kingzone had the better of this to begin with. It looks really strong for them, and you start really losing faith in RNG to begin with. There's a reason why we're speeding this one up, because Xiaohu gets caught, doesn't know that Peanut is that close to him, and MLXG backs him up into 4 people. And then they're like, actually, we're comfortable with this. The TP comes through, and Aatrox runs the show from this point forward.
I have to say, Ming started that fight absolutely brilliantly. In this last cleanup, you could see Kingzone didn't know what they were going to do anymore. The flash from Khan didn't get him away with that. But going back to the front, it was Ming hitting the Dark Binding and then doing the stopwatch into the Tormented stuff. And MLXG only MLXG would have went in 1v4. There's no other jungler that could have made that play.
It's a fine line between MLXG and MLXD in those sorts of dives. But again, we have to talk about the shot caller in these sorts of situations because it looks like Xiaohu was saying, I think I can take this. I can't take this. Wait, I can take this.
But they have a full understanding of the resources available to them. And that's really what ends up, like, they know that if they have the TP, that it's on Zatai, it's on essentially in the regular season, it's also on the top laner for them. Oh my goodness, Let Me, there you go.
There you go.
That is, they double down on the play. They recognize that they're always willing and able to join the fight. So dive comes through, and even though Xiaohu gets caught, even though the Nocturne MLXG flies into a poor situation, they know that they have the full team to back them up, and that's what matters at the end of the day.
And honestly, I don't think Kingzone are really that bad against other teams, but it's their propensity to go in after they've already lost a little bit of portion. Kingzone always wants to fight. That really makes them falter to RNG, because RNG is so good when you give them those second chances to go in and fight a little bit more. I will say, however, today, even though LPL went 4-0, I don't actually think they've solved the gold funneling from Korea. Not at the level that Flash Wolves has really developed. They went in on the Camille and the Galio strategy. They actually got very lucky to take a game away from SKT. And hopefully, after the break, when we see them 2 days later, they're going to have a really good strategy because I don't think the LCK gold funneling is going anywhere.
Yeah, this could very well become a summit for the LPL coaches because they'll have a full day to sit and watch a best-of-5 between the LCK and the LMS and try to figure out ways for the LPL teams to defeat that, which is going to be quite surprising to see how that turns out. Of course, we still do have that final fight, the replay at, I believe it was the Baron, yeah, there it is, in which things start to look a little bit dicey, but again, it's just the trust falls from RNG to turn this around.
Baron net, and of course, GA for Nocturne, and you just see Nocturne continue to go for it.
Yeah, and Aatrox is so good in this situation. He's great as a small-scale skirmisher. He can lock people down multiple times. It's very hard to get away from the Infernal Chains once he lands you. And just look at the follow-up here. Even Mundo, Khan, the tankiest member on his team, can't get away from this onslaught at all. 3 members waiting off to finish BDD.
And so remember, ultimately, it came down to 2 snowballs. It was Nocturne's early snowball, 4 kills. The early kills coming makes it very difficult for the gold funneling to actually work, because with his kill, suddenly he just goes straight into the red side jungle of Kingzone, and it's very difficult for Kingzone to actually go from mid lane to immediately going into to get their own camps. So they actually lose out early towers super early on in the game, 2 towers on, and it feels difficult just because of the early snowball from Nocturne, and then the team fighting because of the early snowballing from Aatrox. So Clement's right, they can still run this composition and then go into the tomorrow versus the LMS teams, and they'll have to find their own response to it.
I think if you look at the gold funneling composition, it's not something that you can come back from behind, because you do have a support in that 2v2 versus the Zoe and the Nocturne at the same time. You're getting support items, so once you go behind, it's actually very difficult for this type of a team comp to come back from the dead. And if Kingzone are going to play this, they have to wait for their power spikes. They have to wait for the maximum potential rather than go in just because they got the flash removes.
And now with this, Kingzone now find themselves 0-2 on the day as they prepare for tomorrow. You can see the results of this. Edward Gaming and the rest of the LPL 4-0 day 2. Woo.
Yeah, really fun to watch the final game. Of course, RNG taking that one. It was a long day, 6-2. Just because of that.
Hey, but I have to say, LMS, even though they only got 2 wins, 2 of those were Flash Wolves, so I hope that means we get 5 Flash Wolves games tomorrow, right?
It's possible.
That's the big hope in the best of 5. Yeah, the blind relay. Of course, we'll be getting to that in just a moment here. You can see the LMS results as expected. Like you said, the 2-0 for Flash Wolves and LCK, the last region to represent here, as Kingzone find themselves down 0-2. Every other team was able to take a win, but the #1 seed did not.
And here's the thing, now as we look towards the future, because the 2 teams that didn't take victories, and I'm looking directly at the LMS, GRX, MAD, I think they have potential to be able to take victories. Obviously, Flash Wolves have a lot of ownership going into the next series up against the LCK that they have to continue to go forward. But GRX and MAD, looked decent in points of the tournament, and they need to be able to come in.
I just realized you didn't say Machi, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I have no faith in Machi. That's the reason.
Okay. I actually agree with you there. Tomorrow, the best exciting matchup is going to be KT and Flash Wolves. I think those two teams have the best understanding of the meta so far, funneling versus anti-funneling.
And on your screen, you can see the schedule. We don't know what those teams are going to be because, like we said, we're going into the blind relay stage at this point. 4 teams in a best of 5. Every team must play once and cannot repeat until Game 5, and both teams are decided blindly at the same time.
Why not?
I mean, there's a chance we could see Flash Wolves play twice if it goes to 5. But it's going to be real tough for them. That said, that's going to do it for us. Ladies and gentlemen, Rift Rivals round robin stage has completed with some upsets and a ton of excitement. But on behalf of myself, my analysts, the whole production team, and our casters, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow for the Blind Relay.